What's up, boys? Today we're gonna talk about the newer 100cm remote control carbon fiber motorized slider. God damn, it's a long ass sentence. See you after the intro, which I still have to make. So here's some white text on a black background. Okay, so before we get right into this, we need to dissect the brand Neewer. See now, Neewer is the type of brand broke bitches like me like to invest in when it comes to filming gear, but we call it budget friendly. Now, their products are kind of solid, but sometimes it can be frustrating having to deal with flimsy screws and poorly built light stands. Psst, it's made in China. But since there's barely any competition in that price range, I thought to myself, well, yeah, don't really have an option there, do I? So I went on Amazon and bought this puppy for around 280 bucks. Link in the description below. This might still sound like a lot, but compared to more premium sliders like Edelkrone or even Kesselkrane, it's a good offer. Now, you might ask yourself why even bother buying a slider? Well, if you're like me and you have no friends that would happily offer their time to help you out with the shots, then yeah, you need a slider. If you want to have moving shots that you can replicate over and over again, which especially comes in handy when it comes to VFX, then you need a slider. You need a slider. Ooh. Don't get me wrong, I do love me some gimbals, but they're different tools for different purposes. So we'll have a look at what's inside the box. We're gonna do a quick unboxing. Then we're gonna have to build this thing up because it doesn't ship assembled. Talk about quality, the remote control, loudness, object tracking, and probably the most important thing to me, if it's sturdy enough to handle bigger payloads like my Blackmagic 6K with the cage and the monitor and the external battery. I do have timestamps, so feel free to jump to the topic that suits your interest. By the way, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, because if you won't, I'll find you and I'm gonna snuggle with you. Yeah, I'm gonna cuddle with you. I'm gonna embrace your ass. Don't want that, neither do I. So let's go. Right out of the box, you get a carrying case. Inside you'll find the slider itself, the motor, the remote control, a 2200 mAh NPF 550 battery plus charger, which I appreciate since I have a couple of them lying around, the belt, a bunch of cables for charging and time-lapse for different cameras, some screws, some tools, and a poorly translated manual. Also worth noticing is you have a 1/4 inch thread and a 3/8 adapter mounted on the base plate for you to mount a ball or a fluid head. Not included are the 2 AAA batteries you need for the remote control, so keep that in mind. I would also like to mention there is a version of the slider you can control with your phone using an app, but I went specifically with this one since I already use my phone and my tablet to control lights and cameras around the studio. So it's nice to have a separate unit and not have to switch apps all the time. Okay, so the manual is not only poorly translated, but the instructions are dog shit. Figuring it out on your own might save you some time if you make an educated guess. If not, just stick with this section as I run through building this thing up. Spoiler, it's pretty straightforward. First thing you want to do is put the feet out and mount the motor with the 2 bigger screws. Turn the slider upside down and mount the first belt bracket. Then mount the second bracket as shown, but don't tighten the belt yet. Now put the belt through the bearings and tighten it up. You can add more tension to the belt on the other side, but be careful not to break it. And you're done. I must say the carbon fiber does feel nice to the touch. All in one, it looks great and feels great, except for the remote control, which is made out of cheap plastic. But since you don't have to sell a kidney in order to buy this thing, I'm okay with it. You can adjust the feet to level out the slider, and you can lock it in place if you don't want it to move around. Underneath, you'll find the mounting points for tripods, and again on each side. The motor is pretty silent depending on what surface you place it on. I have mine on my desk, which is a bit louder than having it on a tripod because the desk resonates. But even on a tripod, you do hear a slight hum. That's why I wouldn't recommend mounting the mic on the camera and go wireless instead. What What I really love about the slider is the object tracking. By releasing these screws, you can change the angle the camera is looking at. This way you can have the camera pivot around objects without the use of a second motor. It's not perfect by any means, and it does tend to wobble around depending on the weight of the camera. Speaking of which, let's see how the slider can handle the Blackmagic 6K. I do have some experience with sliders, at least enough to know you're not gonna use this on a single tripod, especially with bigger and heavier cameras. The more weight you put on, the bigger the chances are the whole thing is gonna tip over. You'll break your camera, your slider, you'll be sad, and everyone will hate you. You might get away with smaller cameras like the A6300, but I would prefer using 2 tripods on each side instead, or place it on a solid surface. But it does work fine with the BMPCC 6K. Kind of. Object tracking is only usable when I strip down the camera to its core. Every bit of weight or cable attached is gonna make it wobble. But the motor is indeed strong enough to drive the camera, even at an angle. So is this the best slider? No. Is it the best slider in its price range? In my opinion, yes. Should you subscribe to my channel for more awesome tech videos? Of course. But for real though, if you're on a budget, go with it. I'm not a fan of the time-lapse menu, so if you want me to cover that in a separate video, let me know in the comments. That's it for today's video. Have a good one.